We are looking at homework Unit 10, Lesson 4. So question number 1 says, rectangle ABC is inscribed in circle P. Really, I'm just going to encourage you to read through this one on your own and try drawing a picture, explain it in your own words. So I'm leaving one up to you. If I take a look at number 2, it says in the figure, BCDE is a rectangle inscribed inside circle A. Remember, if it's inscribed, that means all of its vertices fall on the circle, and they do. If DE is 8, DE is 8, and BE is 12, it says find AE, which is not drawn, but we can draw it in. Find that in simplest radical form. But really, I'm going to go ahead and draw the whole diameter instead of just a radius. And if this side DE is 8, then I would also know that because it's a rectangle, the opposite side is the same length. And now I have a right triangle. I can just do Pythagorean theorem to get the length of CE. And since they want AE, I would just split it in half. So do Pythagorean theorem, let's just call this whole side x, and you'll have to do x divided by 2 at the end. 8 squared plus 12 squared equals x squared. Make sure you simplify the radical to get to the length of the radius. On to number 3. So number 3 says, given the figure, BC is congruent to CD, which is equal to 8. So BC congruent to CD, which is equal to 8. So this side is 8, this length is 8. BC is also 8, but it shows that these two little pieces are congruent. So I would actually know that they're each 4. And then they tell me that the length of AD is 13. I should know that if this chord BC is bisected like they're showing me, then this angle must be a right angle. So I'm putting the right angle symbol in there. And find the radius of the circle in simplest radical form. So I'm going to have to do this in a couple steps because really I know that this whole length, since I know it has pieces of 4 and 8, that is actually 12. So I'm going to go ahead and do Pythagorean theorem. I'm going to call this x for a minute. I'm going to say x squared plus 12 squared equals 13 squared. So x squared plus 144 equals 169, and subtract 144, and I get x squared equals 25, and so the value of x must be 5. So that's this value. That is not the radius though, so be careful. The radius would actually be AB, so I've got another right triangle. Let's call this variable y. Now you're going to say 4 squared plus 5 squared equals y squared, and solve for y. Again, keep your answer in simplest radical form. So you're not going to come up with a perfect square here. You will have to simplify that radical. And last one, let's look at question number 4. In question number 4, it says, in the figure DF and BG are parallel chords. Remember, parallel chords slice off congruent arcs. So I know right away that arc FG would be congruent to arc DB, but we'll get back to that. I don't even know if that will help me. And they are 14 centimeters apart, so the length from E to H is 14, but I don't necessarily know that that's split in half, so I can't do much with that yet. DF is 12, DF is 12, and AB is 10, and EH is perpendicular to BG. Alright, so if that's perpendicular, then these are cut in half. And if a segment is perpendicular to this one, so this diameter or radius is perpendicular to this chord, and these two chords are parallel, then it must also be perpendicular here. So I can assume that these are bisected, and each one of these would then be 6. I know a radius is 10, but let's actually draw another radius in there. And so now I see a right triangle where I know 2 sides, and I can find the third side pretty quickly and easily. This again is a Pythagorean triple. You already saw it in a problem up above. So you should be able to find the value of x pretty easily. Do Pythagorean theorem. Then they tell me that this whole thing is 14. So I'm going to take 14 minus the value of x to get this. You're going to have to do some work on your own here. And then Pythagorean theorem again to get, let's call this y, the value of y. They want the whole length of BG. And so in the end, you'll have to add y plus y, or 2y.